you can just go ahead and introduce yourself to the camera, and then we'll just go from there.
Okay, my name is Alicia Vance, and I'm 27, and I live in Hoover.
And this is Beautiful Bodies of Birmingham. So I guess what we can do is start where you kind of first maybe notice like body image or self-esteem, or maybe the pressure to like be a certain way.
That would definitely be in middle school, just because I was a little chubby at first, and I didn't slim down until about the end of my 8th grade year and beginning of my freshman year. And, you know, I was very self-conscious those early middle school years, and you know, as I kind of slimmed down, you know, my confidence came, and you know, I mean, I felt very confident throughout high school.
So you, when we, you know, did the shoot, and then you mentioned in your story that, you know, you got married quite young, and that might have you know, and that of course, like, it wasn't the healthiest marriage, and some of it was abusive and stuff. Do you feel like maybe that whole experience kind of took a hit to your self-esteem?
Definitely.
Do you want to talk about that maybe?
Yeah. You know, like right before I got married, a few months before, I started having some health issues and a bunch of unexplained pain in my back and in my ribs. And it wasn't until after I got married that I finally got a diagnosis. And I have a disease called syringomyelia, and it means I have a cyst inside my spinal cord.
Wow.
And there is absolutely no cure for it. It just like puts pressure on my nerves and attacks them, and I'm in pain 24/7.
Oh my God.
And I mean, I haven't had a pain-free day in a little over 3 years, and
wow.
It's been a roller coaster. And the more we found out about that, and the worse I got, and the worse my pain got, and the more we found out that there was really nothing they can do except try to treat the pain, the more I really noticed, as I look back, my husband starting to resent me for it.
Wow.
And, you know, if I didn't want to be intimate with him, he would be so mean and nasty and tell me I was a selfish bitch and all kinds of name calling, and it was like he wasn't understanding my side.
That you were hurting.
Yeah, that I was in constant pain. It was like, okay, well, why don't you give me a back rub, and then maybe we can, and it was just, it was so hard. And I mean, for a long time I carried a lot of guilt because of the names he was calling me, and just not wanting to share that part with him. And I realize now that I shouldn't have been guilty, because I was actually just repulsed by him treating me bad, and it was a lot of verbal and emotional abuse. And
wow,
it was slowly getting worse. And because there was one time where I actually had to call the cops on him.
Oh my God.
And have him like hauled off and committed to the hospital, because it was just like, I was afraid he was insanely drunk, and I was afraid I was going to get hurt as like an after effect of something, and that he was going to hurt himself, because he was like falling over in our house.
Yeah.
And it was really scary. And that was when things really started to get bad.
Yeah.
And I got him to go to a couple marriage counseling sessions with me. And, you know, my biggest thing was, you know, you talk to me so disrespectful all the time. Like, he could just come home in a mood and be so nasty to me, or wake up and be so nasty to me when I didn't even say anything to him.
Yeah.
And, you know, my disease is so rare, I had to come to UAB from Mobile, Alabama, where I lived for 8 years, to see a doctor and a neurosurgeon. And he never once came up here with me.
Wow.
To any of those appointments or procedures or anything like that, or any tests that they were doing. And it was just, you know, the whole sickness and in health part didn't apply.
Exactly. Like, oh my God.
And, you know, it bothered my dad. Like, I could tell it bothered my dad, and I was like, I know it hurts my feelings too. And I brought that up in marriage counseling, and he pretty much said, well, until she acts like this, and this, and puts out whenever I want, I'm not even going to start trying to talk to her nice.
Oh,
and we were
my
like,
God, that's
That's not how it works.
That is called sexism and misogyny, and that is not okay.
Yeah, it was not. And it was like, I mean, what's the point, you know? And I kept trying to go to an individual counselor, and our marriage counselor encouraged him to do that, and he was like, no, I won't do it. And I was like, what do I do? Like, how do I make my husband realize he's treated me like a piece of crap?
Oh, God.
And it was very frustrating and very hard.
Yeah. So you find out that you have this illness that there's no cure.
Yes.
And instead of having the one person that you thought would have your back support you, he completely, like, turned his back on you.
Yes.
I mean,
exactly.
I cannot even imagine. I mean, you have got to be one strong lady for getting through that, because that is
and it, I mean,
a
it
lot.
was, I know it was scary for me, and I know it was scary for him, and it was scary for my family too, because we were like, am I going to have back surgery? Am I going to be out? And I mean, a lot of people who have this disease are in wheelchairs or use walkers. And I mean, I have a limp when I walk, and that's it. But I'm so grateful every day that I can still walk.
Yeah.
I mean, it's taken, you know, it took my career, because my neurosurgeon said I had to quit working. And it's, you know, it took some of my independence and a lot of other things. But I just try to focus on the fact that, you know, my dad has been amazing and been to almost every single doctor appointment and test with me, and my sister and brother are so supportive, and I have some really supportive friends, and I focus on that and the fact that I can still walk. And
so having technically, would you consider yourself like disabled, like non-able bodied? Okay. Okay, so when you're disabled but you look seemingly healthy, what are the struggles with that, with like people not taking you seriously, people kind of like brushing it off, like, oh, you're really not in all that pain? Or
the neurosurgeon that I have now was the third neurosurgeon I saw, because the first two were like, here's Percocet, be on your way. And I was like, no, that's not okay.
Yeah.
And you know, and people go years, that people I've connected with online go years without one, getting a diagnosis and finding a neurosurgeon or neurologist who take them seriously and actually say, I'm going to help you.
Wow.
And I only had to go a few months, and I'm so grateful for that. And the thing I get the most is people staring at me because I do have a handicap tag, because I've taken a lot of falls, and it's been done in parking lots, it's been done in the house, it's been done everywhere. And so they gave me a handicap tag so that I wouldn't have to walk as far. And
so you wouldn't risk falling.
Yeah, because I'm such a fall risk. And I get a lot of nasty stares from that. And I never let it get to me, because I know in my heart I'm not doing anything wrong, and that I need it. And if they spent a couple hours in my body, they probably wouldn't be able to handle it. And they'd have a whole new respect, because I look like a perfectly healthy 27-year-old on the outside, and it's just what it does is this system, my spine, feels like there's a balloon being blown up inside me. And
oh my God.
I would never wish it on anyone.
Like chronic pain all the time.
Chronic pain, yes.
Yeah, and that is such a silent illness. That people, you know, have multiple diseases or, you know, diagnosis where it's like, hey, like, I literally am in pain all day long.
Yes.
And that affects your quality of life. Like,
it does.
And I think that with this project, you can kind of bring light on a lot of that and help people be more understanding, and don't be so judgmental.
Just don't. If somebody's using a handicap tag and they look fine, it might not be the case.
Yeah.
At all.
So do you feel like before your diagnosis and after there's just like a complete difference in like the way you view yourself, maybe? Or there's some days where you're like wishing that you were maybe more confident? Or
yeah, it definitely has. I know right after a few months after I got married, my neurosurgeon sent me to a neurologist, and she noticed that I have a lot of muscle weakness and a lot of facial muscle weakness. And one of the things she said was, you know, your smile isn't big. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, you just don't have a big smile. And then and I had literally just gotten hundreds of wedding pictures back from my photographer, and I spent weeks obsessing, and I was like, oh my gosh, I do have a small smile. And I started to view my smile and other things in a negative way. And I was like, okay, I'm 24. I've been fine with it all these years. Why am I suddenly, I can't let, that's her job to notice it. And what she thinks is a small smile doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah, just because it's small doesn't mean it's bad.
But I just took it like that. And, I had a muscle biopsy done, and
oh wow,
from this arm, and the neurologist that did that was like, "Are your eyes always that droopy?" And I was like, "Good morning to you too."
Oh God.
So it's just our job, and I've learned to kind of have thick skin about it.
But come on, is there not bedside manners?
Yeah.
Just because it's your job doesn't mean you can be an asshole. Really.
Which I ended up really liking that doctor. But at first I was like, he's kind of a jerk.
Well, that's kind of hurtful. And then also, being just a woman, there's so much pressure on us to look a certain way and be a certain way, and all these standards that are impossible to meet anyway. So when you have an illness or when you have a side effect from something that you can't control, you feel really helpless.
Yeah. And also, before that procedure, I couldn't have any of my pain medication because it had Tylenol in it for 5 days. So for 5 days, I was just not doing anything and intensive pain. And I wasn't sleeping well, and that was part of it was probably a normal bag under my eye or droopy eye, but then the rest of it was probably the fact that I was not sleeping because I was in so much pain.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, thanks. So last July was when I got divorced and things really escalated, and so a couple people, closer friends who came to hang out a lot, noticed that when my husband was drinking more, that he was really just mean to me and that wasn't treating me right and respecting me. And there was one night where I was getting on my computer and he had been on it, and he left his Facebook logged in, and I always left mine logged in, and so I thought it was mine, and there was an alert for a message, and I clicked on it because I thought it was mine, and that's where I found some messages with this woman that he had been having an affair with.
Wow.
And I quickly realized that it was not my Facebook account, it was his, and because the last few things that pulled up on this message were so incriminating, I read the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, the most recent things I read was, he was begging her to come over a month earlier when I was up here for my annual MRI at UAB and neurosurgeon appointment. And he was begging her to come to our house to have sex. And
while you were out of town getting an MRI.
Yes. While he was, and he had actually taken that whole entire week off of work and still did not come up here with me and support me, and instead is inviting another woman over and begging her. And
wow.
I know they exchanged phone numbers, and I pulled up the phone records, and they exchanged a lot of text messages. And as I read more, because I called my dad just in tears and told him that my husband was cheating on me, and he was just like, look, I can't tell you what to do, you're gonna have to make the decision for yourself, but I'm really sorry that this is going on. And I was like, well, I know what I'm gonna do. And I was like, I'm gonna find a lawyer.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, then you need to copy and paste what you found, take screenshots, you need to just calm down and do all that right now.
Yeah.
And so I was shaking, I was almost hyperventilating, and just trying to hold it together to do this. And as I read more, there was a time when I was sleeping well, and he was bragging to this woman about sexually abusing me in my sleep.
Oh God.
And I got so sick to my stomach when I read that, and it was, I couldn't even you know, when he came to like kiss me when he got home from work, I just wanted to, I mean, I cringed. It was, I had to play nice for about a week and a half until my lawyer got papers together, and I just, I couldn't sleep when he was in the house with me.
Oh my God, that's horrifying. So he was having sex with you while you were sleeping.
Yes. I don't know exactly what he was doing.
But he was doing sexual acts to you while you
he was
were
definitely doing
so you could not consent to those acts.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
And
oh my God.
I don't know how many times he did it, and it, as I look back, you know, and it started during our first anniversary, and I'd had some drinks because we were at the beach and celebrating it. And so looking back, like if we ever went out to eat or if we ever had a little cookout with friends or whatever, he always was like, you need to get drunk, you need to get drunk. And like, so now I'm like, is that why you wanted me to get drunk? So I would just sleep really well and you could do whatever you wanted.
So he's like a predator.
Yeah, exactly. And
oh God.
It was so disgusting. And I mean, I couldn't finish a meal. I couldn't.
I don't blame you.
I couldn't sleep when he was in the house, and I was miserable, and I just wanted. It was hard to keep my shit together. It really was.
And oh my God.
When I finally confronted him about it, you know, at first I said, "Well, I know what you've been doing with this woman," and said her name. Yeah, I'm trying not to call out names or anything, but
yeah.
And he said, "Oh, that's just nothing," and I was like. And if I was doing all that with another man, would you? And I said, oh, that's just nothing. Would you buy that? And he just avoided that question like the plague. And then I was like, look, I also know what you were doing to me in my sleep. And he said, oh, that was just a joke. I was just joking with her about it. And I was like, no, like, I don't believe that for a second. That is a sick joke.
And who would joke about that?
And I mean, and this woman was like going with it, and I'm just like, how sick and demented do you people have to be to one, do that, and then to like be okay talking to somebody who's doing that?
Oh my God.
To their wife.
So how did you cope with all of this?
I mean, it was not easy, and you know, he signed the papers uncontested, and my dad stayed with me for a few days after that, and I changed the locks and stuff like that. But I mean, it was hard, and when I was still living there, it was hard. And
oh God.
I mean, I'm sure I was a little bit depressed because I was in this house that we picked out together, and you know, lived in together, and there was, you know, some good stuff, but a lot of bad memories, and and I mean, I hated being there, and I hated being there alone. And my dad came down a lot from Hoover to, you know, help me paint and do a few little things to get my house ready to sell. And you know, meanwhile, my ex is like texting me like, I want you back, let's go to counseling. And it's just like, at that point there was no, I mean, and he was saying, you know, you can go through my phone, you can go through my Facebook. And I was like, if I'm doing that, that means I don't trust you, and I can't be with someone I don't trust.
Exactly.
You know, the damage is done, and for me there's no going back.
I'm so glad you got out of that.
And you know, he threatened that he was gonna come over and get this and that, which, I mean, he got all of his stuff and more than what our papers listed he could have. And I was like, there's nothing else here. And
it was just a manipulation tactic.
It did, and it bothered me. Like, I have a dog, and if I ever took her out, I was like, okay, Minnie, do your business, and then like, let's get in. I was paranoid about having the doors locked. You know, if I ever left the house, I was like checking my surroundings, because I know he moved like down the road in with his sister, so he was still really close to me.
Yeah. And
I was constantly checking my surroundings, checking my rear view, sleeping next to my gun. And I mean, I just, it was really, really hard. And I moved back in November, and I mean, it did so much. Like, I knew it was going to be good for me emotionally and mentally, but it did way more than I ever expected, being back with my family, because I had to move in with my dad because my house hadn't even sold yet. I just needed to get out.
You had to get out of there. Did you go to any counseling for any of the, you know, on your own for any of this stuff that happened?
No, I did a lot of counseling when I was younger for different things, and I think that has helped set me up to deal with a lot of things better. But I mean, it definitely wouldn't hurt. You know, if I ever feel like it's affecting any other relationship in the future, I definitely would.
Because it's still so recent, so you never know. It could haunt you for a while.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, it's just, you know, it's over, and I've been in a really good place for several months, and I mean, I'm happy, and it's and I feel safe again, and it's just been so much better since I moved back and surrounded myself with my family and my childhood friends and stuff like that. And it's been really good.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad you got out of that. That is absolutely insane, and a lot of women don't get that opportunity to leave.
It's scary, and I mean, I couldn't have done it without my family. Like, my dad drove down the day I confronted my ex, because I was like, he's gonna flip his shit. And he's kind of scared of my dad, and so like when he knew my dad was watching, he was like trying to be calm and the nice guy, but like after we signed the papers, him and his sister came over to get a few like overnight things, and then the next day he got the rest of his stuff. But the day we signed and he came back, I mean, and he was about to walk out, I mean, I was crying, because at one point I did love him. Yeah. And he broke my heart, and he was like, well, why are you crying? And I was like, because I'm heartbroken. And he said, well, you're the one and he was yelling, and he said, and you're the one that's divorcing me over a fucking text message, you fucking bitch.
Are you kidding?
And my dad and his sister were outside, and he thought they couldn't hear, and my dad was like, oh no, I heard everything. Like, it's amazing how he treats you when he thinks when I'm not there. He
sounds like a sociopath and a predator.
He definitely has a bunch of mental instabilities, and he would go off his meds just cold turkey, and I mean, even his sister was like, is he taking his meds? And I was like, no. And I mean, he quit taking them in June, and then got on something like right before I found all this out. And I told him in June, I said, look, if we have to have this conversation again anytime soon, it's going to be ugly, like separation ugly.
Okay, so for the last few minutes, I guess you can just talk about kind of like where you are now, and what you hope to get from the project, and why you wanted to be a part of it.
Okay, well, you know, like I said, I've been in a really good place, and, you know, like in January, I felt I was ready to start dating, but I even waited like a whole month before even trying to get back into it, because I wanted to be sure. And it was scary, because it had been 5.5 years since I'd been on a first date, and I was like, oh my gosh, what do I even do? Like, the last time I was single, I was 21, you know? And but no, I mean, it's been good overall, and you know, there are some weirdos out there, but overall it's been good, and you know, fun to get back into that. And I'm blanking.
It's okay. So
why I wanted to do it?
Yeah, like why do you think you reached out to us? Like, what do you think struck you to be like, oh, I want to be a part of this?
Well, I mean, it's that, like, before I got this diagnosis, I was exercising like regularly and eating pretty healthy, and because I wanted to be skinny and beautiful for my wedding, because I'd gained a few pounds. And you know, I've definitely gained a couple back since all of this has gone on, because I can't physically exercise the way
and you're just going through a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I was kind of nervous about it, but I'm okay with it, and I'm at peace with it. And I really felt it was important to, one, like, share, you know, about having a disability at such a young age, especially an invisible disability.
Yes.
That nobody else can see. And, you know, also with my marriage and getting out of it, because I know a lot of people don't have the same support that I did, because I had, you know, emotional and financial support to help make ends meet when I couldn't. And it's scary, but I mean, I don't regret it. I know I did the right thing. I still think I did the right thing.
Definitely.
And I mean, nobody deserves to be treated like that, to live like that. And I mean, I could tell that signs were escalating to where it was going to get worse, because he would like throw things or something and I'd have to like dodge it, and it's just, that's not okay. And
Yeah.
you know, and I just, you know, nobody should live like that. And it is scary to stand up for yourself, but it was definitely worth it, and I don't regret it at all.
Okay, so you can pick up where you left off about why you wanted to do the project.
I think that's pretty much it.
So you just wanted to let everyone know, like, hey, like, you know, you can be going through a lot, no matter if it's an invisible illness or an abusive relationship, but, like, you're not alone. And
Yeah,
like,
you're not alone, and, you know, whether somebody's calling you a selfish bitch or worse, that, you know, you're really not, and that don't let them, you know, guilt you into feeling like something that you're not, and, you know, and that you can still be beautiful even though you're in pain 24/7.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
And even if you don't fit a certain standard or a certain, you know, picture of what's supposed to be attractive or this and that, like, everyone sees everyone differently, and,
Yes.
you know, what floats someone's boat might be different than the next person.
Yes.
So I think acceptance is pretty much why we do this, and it's
Yeah.
exciting to have multiple different people from all different walks of life come to us, and they have completely different backgrounds. They're going through completely different things, but the one thing that unifies us all is we all want to be treated with respect.
Yes.
And I think that that's really important for you to talk about, for example, having this illness and just wanting to be respected when you're walking into a store and not have to have stares from people who
Yeah.
are judging you based on your handicap sticker.
Yes.
But it's like, hey, dude, you can't see that I have chronic pain.
Yeah.
Like,
And I get stares for walking or like going downstairs. Like, I take them one at a time, and I get stares for that. And I mean, it's, you know, it is what it is. People are gonna stare no matter what. But you know, just, you know, you just can't judge because you don't know
Do you
what
think
someone's going
do you
through.
think this has helped you judge people less?
Yes.
So maybe this, being diagnosed with this, has kind of impacted your life in positive ways.
Yes. Because, and I mean, like, I was guilty of, like, seeing someone use a handicap spot, and I was like, well, they don't look handicapped to me. And now I don't, you know, I don't think like that.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, I was guilty of it too, but I haven't done that in several years.
Now it's a learning curve. Like, you can literally like be like, hey, I was guilty of it. Now I'm going through it, and hey, this is why you should probably think before you judge.
Yes. And no one has ever, like, left me a nasty note. Like, I know you've seen, like, people leaving nasty notes on people who don't look handicapped parking in a handicapped spot. I did have someone make a comment, like, about how I was walking one day in Walmart, and I did say something, like, to them back, and it was actually pretty funny, and, or, well, everyone I told thought it was funny, but, I mean, I probably shouldn't have even, like, wasted my time, but it was, like, just, it was an older couple just literally giggling at how I was walking, even though I was off to the side and they could have clearly gone around me. I was like, you know what, you guys are being jackasses, so I'm going to go on back.
Just like bullying.
Exactly.
For no reason.
Exactly. And it's just, you know, and I laughed the whole situation off. I didn't let it bother me, like, to an extent where I was like, God, these people piss me. I was like, let me tell you about these idiots in Walmart today.
So if you can sum up your experience doing Beautiful Bodies and this project as a whole, kind of like signing off is the last thing, what would you like to leave us with? Just any afterthoughts or any just kind of broad spectrum, just like, you know, do you feel like you got what you needed out of it personally, or?
Yeah, I think it definitely, for me personally, it helped me, like, do the last little bit of grieving over my divorce and having to move out of my very first home and sell it because it sold in January, and that was about the time I wrote this. And for me, it helped me do that last little bit of grieving that I needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I just hope it can help other people, whether they're struggling with some kind of similar, you know, health issues, or if they're like me, where for a while they didn't know what was going on and they were going from doctor to doctor and they were just scared to death and had no idea what was going on, or to even someone who's just being, whether it's emotional abuse or physically abused, just, you know, to stand up for yourself, because you're awesome and you're beautiful and you don't deserve to be treated like crap.
Exactly. I think that you doing this is very, like, therapeutic, not only for you, but I think it's going to be able to help other people.
Yeah, I hope if it helps the one person, then I'll be okay with that.